It's Thursday evening. Everybody is having a good time. I'm having a good time. We're gonna have an even better time because our guest tonight is awesome. Awesome sauce, as we said in the military. And my MacBook decided to take a break on me, so now I'm on the Surface Pro. So if things look different, it's okay. Don't worry, don't panic. I'm just working on a new device. That's all. So tonight, my guest is none other than Dr. Johnie Tillman, and AKA Uncle Johnny. And look, I was gonna go down this bio and do like a thorough intro. I'll tell you, it's like a book. It's like a book. I'm gonna tell y'all this. We're gonna have a good time tonight because we talking to Uncle Johnny, who embraced me when I first got here from Chicago. When we were working down at the Dream Center together, doing volunteer stuff. If you guys in the Augusta area, RA, then come on down and volunteer with us. But yeah, man, it was just awesome getting to know this senior young man. So I'm gonna go and bring him in, present to some, introduce the others. What's good, Uncle Johnny? How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, Marte. How are you doing this afternoon? Or this evening, I guess it is.
I'm doing awesome. I was actually at the Dream Center not too long ago.
Yeah. I thought about coming by today, but I had some other things I need to do, so I held off today. But anyway.
Yeah.
I'll swing by that next week.
Yeah, you know, I'm not usually down Thursdays anymore, but hey, you know what? My wife was like, she wanted to go down there. I said, let's do it.
Okay.
I said,
good deal.
Let's do it, honey. Let's go. No, we fought a little bit. She said, you gonna come with me? Nope.
And then she said, no, you're gonna come with me.
I'm just joking. I'll go with you. She's like, you ain't gotta go with me. I said, I'm gonna go. I'm ready. So look, all right, Uncle Johnny. Look, so I told you, you already know. You already confessed to me that you're known to go down rabbit holes. And
yes.
I'm known to go down rabbit holes. So we're gonna have to keep each other straight.
That's true. Right.
We're gonna have to work together on this thing, make sure that we stay focused and we don't have a 3-hour show.
My staff always said, they said, when you go and talk to Colonel Tillman, I want you to know one thing. If he says he's got 5 minutes, make 15.
That's right. Look, we got Inspector Nacho in the building. What's going on, Inspector Nacho? How you doing, man? It's good to see you. Thanks for coming out. We got a whole bunch more guests in the building as well. If you guys get a chance to drop a message down in the little thing so that I can shout you out. And if you have questions, concerns, or issues, hopefully there is no concerns or issues, you drop those in there as well. And we'll try to address them and answer whatever questions you may have. All right, Doc. Who's that? Rio's in the building. That's Mario.
Oh, okay.
We got the whole family in the building. What's up? Everybody signing off. We got my Aunt Penny in here. Okay, I see y'all. Living the dream. I see you. Okay. All right. Let's go. Who are you?
So you want me to?
Where
you want to start a little bit about who I am?
Yes, sir. And what do you do? So who are you?
I don't do anything now. I'm retired. As a friend told me, he said one problem about being retired, you never have a day off, you know. So yeah. But anyway, I'm Johnie Tillman. Grew up in Virginia, poor boy in Virginia. My sister, one of my sisters, used to say all the time, we were so poor, we couldn't pay attention, you know. So
not poor, but po.
Po. We were so po, we couldn't pay attention, you know. I have 3 younger sisters. I have 3 children of my own. My beautiful wife Sharon. My oldest son sort of took after me. He was a medic in the Army for about 6 years, and now he's a administrator with actually down at Fort Sam. He's getting ready to move back up to Joint Base Lewis McCord now. Actually, that's where he was born. So I'm going to tell him, and try to look some people up there. Although he was so young, he wouldn't remember anything. Yeah. Then I have a beautiful daughter, Zipporah. She's a lawyer in Atlanta. And then my youngest son is a computer engineer out in California. So I've been blessed. And I got 3 grandchildren from my oldest son. None of my younger 2 children have any children. So we're just holding off on that. So, so I just a little bit about myself. People often ask, why did I want to be a doctor? And I can't say that I actually knew why I wanted to be a doctor. My mother used to say, when I was 5 years old, I always said I wanted to be a doctor, and I have no idea where I got that notion from, except doctors may have shown up at the house, back in those days when I was a kid, your doctors made house calls. But I do remember, and to support that, I remember her saying, you said you wanted to be a doctor, but I'm not sure where, we were going to get the money from for you to go off to school and do all that. And I call that God's will, planting that idea in a 5-year-old's head. And then when I was in the 8th grade, I remember going to the library and looking up on the shelf, and had a whole series of books. So you want to be an engineer. So you want to be a mathematician. So you want to be a lawyer. And then one of them up there was, so you want to be a doctor. So I pulled that book down. I remember reading it from cover to cover. And that forged a little bit more of my desire to be a doctor. I still didn't know how I was going to become a doctor. And then over the years after that, God blessed me in multiple ways. One of them was when I was in high school, the guidance counselor said that, she said, I think you have the ability to apply for a scholarship at one of the preparatory schools up in New England. And she said, I think you do well. And so I did. I applied to this program. It was through a program called ABC. I don't know if any people out there have heard of that, but it's A Better Chance. It was by the Rockefeller Foundation. And they, at that time, had put monies aside for people from underprivileged backgrounds to go off for 6 weeks. At that time, it was 6 weeks. And basically go through what we call the 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic, right? And in the 6 weeks, if you did okay, they had already pre-assigned you to a secondary school that you would go to. So I was blessed to do okay in that program. And then I went off to Phillips Exeter Academy in Exeter, New Hampshire for my last 2 years of high school. And my summer program was actually at Dartmouth College. And because I had become familiar with Dartmouth College, it was one of the places that I really valued very highly to go back to for undergraduate school, and applied to many schools, got into a few, but chose to go to Dartmouth for my undergraduate school. And then by this time, I spent 6 years in New England, so I was getting a little tired when I decided to go to medical school, and a little cold too. It wasn't that cold, but cold enough. Yeah. I remember waking up one morning and the radio station said, it is minus 25. Oh. and by noon it warmed up to minus 15. So, so. But when I applied to medical school, I wanted to go back home, closer to home. Got accepted in a couple of places that were near home, but went back to the Medical College of Virginia, which was right there in Richmond, only about 24 miles from where I grew up in the country. And then my first year, I got some loans and other things, and I was trying to decide what I was going to do. And I'll never forget Rosa Stitt, who was a senior African-American female graduating from the Medical College of Virginia at that time. She said, I went across campus one day, and I knew her very vaguely. Obviously, she's a senior and I'm a freshman, And I said, but I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to do to finish up medical school money-wise. And she said it literally this way, boy, you need a health professional scholarship program. And I said, what the heck is that? You know, well, that was that. And she had joined the Army. She had applied and gotten a health professional scholarship program. And she gave me the application. She gave me the telephone number where I called. And I actually applied to one to the Air Force and one to the Army. I never got anything back from the Air Force. I told them I'm probably on somebody's roll in the Air Force even today. But so when I applied, within a short time, they came back and told me I had been accepted. And because I had already done 1 year of medical school and gotten paid through, I had a small little grant and then some loans. They only were going to pay back for 3 years to medical school. And that was my plan. That was truly my plan. And I said all that to get you to this point where my plan was to have the Army pay back those 3 years of medical school, which meant that once I finished medical school and they paid me as a second lieutenant, they paid me a stipend, wasn't a second lieutenant. If you went to the other program, which was at the Uniformed Service University, they actually paid you as a second lieutenant. But I got $400 a month as a stipend, which was a lot of money back in the 1970s. You know, I had an apartment. I got a car that somebody else had been making payments on. I just took over the payments. The payments on the car was $88 a month. I know. It was a Vega too. It was a Vega. The apartment was $110 a month, and $10 for utilities, and if I'm not $10 for the phone bill, and the utilities was included in that. So then I had enough money for a little cash for food and stuff like that. But so I did that, and then after graduating, went off to do my residency training at Madigan Army Medical Center. By that time, I'd also married, and I was out and at Fort Lewis, Washington. That's where my oldest son was born. And I was just gonna, like I say, stay around for 3 years. And then let the Army, know, hey, I'm out of here. And I remember when those 3 years were up, and my saying, hey, you can leave, And I decided to stay, and I started to stay for several reasons. One was because I realized that it was going to afford me the opportunity to do some things that I couldn't do in civilian life. So right after my residency, I was a brigade surgeon with the old 9th Infantry Division at Fort Lewis. I didn't know anything about being a soldier. I knew a lot about medicine, but I didn't know anything about being a soldier. So I learned a lot about being a soldier there. I learned a lot from a lot of enlisted guys, from real good senior enlisted folks and junior enlisted people that just, taught me a lot about being a soldier. I remember one time we were out in the field, and I was helping them set up some tents and stuff. And one of the sergeants major came up to me and said, "Sir," he said, "were you prior service enlisted?" I said, "Sergeant Major, I'm going to take that as a compliment." He said, "It was meant to be." He said, "It was meant to be." I said, "No, Sergeant Major." He said, "Well, where you learn all this stuff?" I said, "From all these soldiers here."
That's right.
I said, "I'm good at doing that." I said, once I in medicine, we had a rule: see one, do one, and teach one. I said, right. So I saw them do one, and then I asked them to show me how to do one. And then next thing I know, I could do it too. So.
That's right.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it. So the 3 years I was going to pay back turned into 30 years. And over those 30 years, I was a brigade surgeon staff at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, taught residents here at Fort Gordon back in the 80s, went off to Command and General Staff College. And from Command and General Staff College, I went to division surgeon job at Fort Polk, Louisiana. And I went to a lot of places that people didn't want to go to for several reasons. Number one, I knew that it was a good chance I could go there. Right. And number two, most of the time they were going to afford me to do the things that I wanted to do. Okay. And so taught medical students at the Uniformed Service University, was a hospital commander, which is like a CEO of a hospital at Fort Eustis, Virginia. Okay. And was commander down at Fort Sam, the Defense Medical Readiness Training Institute, which used to be the old Joint Trauma Training Center that they had there, JTTC. Demertai. Yep.
Okay. When were you there?
I was a commander there. I was there from 1999 to 2002.
Okay.
Yeah. Left there and went to Hawaii. So, and never deployed. I never deployed in 30 years. I never deployed. Yeah. If I'd had it my way, in other words, if I had gotten every one of the assignments that I wanted to get, I would have deployed twice. But those assignments didn't come my way. When I was at Fort Sam, I never forget, we had a General Foley was there. And General Foley used to say all the time, he said, y'all keep saying the Army moves people. It's not the Army that moves people. It is God that moves you, you know? He was a very godly guy, man. Look, he was the commander down at Fort Sam at the time. And I kind of took that into account for the times when I didn't get to the place I could have gone to.
That's right.
And I'd never deployed. I just say it wasn't in God's plans for me to deploy. So I never did. You know? But I planned for a lot of deployments. That was part of my job, obviously, in those brigade and division surgeon jobs I had. So
right.
Anyway.
Look, I got a lady gift. That's my mama. She said, "Hey, Uncle Johnny."
Okay. Hey, how you doing,
Mama? Welcome to the show. Nephew Tay, Aunt Priscilla says, "Wow, that's good stuff." So, 30 years. Tell Prisca I said that's not that wild. What she's doing is wild. Yeah. So look, a lot of my guests, they're not even you serve longer than a lot of people has been alive in this show.
My last job was the MEPCOM surgeon, right, where all the folks are coming into the Army, right? Yes, and so it was so funny. I went visiting with him one time, and at one of the MEPs, and I looked around the room, and the people were talking about things. At that time, I'd been in the Army for 28 years, and I looked around, and the folks were saying, well, you know, such and such. I said, well, you know, you'll get to the point where you'll be okay, and you're going to come around the Army. Next thing you know, the time's going to fly by. And one of the guys got a little snappy with me, and I said, listen, young man, I said, I've been in the Army longer than you've been born. And he was like 26. I said, I've been in the Army for 28 years, man.
Look,
so yeah,
Inspector Nacho says 30 years in the Army is crazy. Laugh out loud.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But,
yeah. It went by fast.
Nacho, you got like what, 6, 7? Look, Mario says, I'm at a loss for words, Uncle. You have done it all. He's done a lot. He's still doing. So 30 years, Uncle Johnny. 30 years.
Yeah.
So
30 years,
when it was time, you hear this a lot, you know when it's time, right? So was it one of those things where it was like, you know, the Army saying, hey, look, thank you for your service? Or was it like, I'm tired of moving around, I want to grow some roots? What was the catalyst that said it's time to hang them up?
I've often said a couple of things about the job that one does. One of them is, and I'm going to insert here one of my little leadership principles, if you will. As a leader, whether you're a supervisor or superintendent or whatever you are, remember that your job is to serve your subordinates, okay? Think about, and if you want to know who your subordinates are, think about your job and figure out who, if they went away, my job is no longer there, okay? In other words, if I'm a supervisor and I have nobody to supervise, then those are the people you serve. Right. When I was a hospital commander, I told everybody, I said, I serve you, because there is no command if there is no hospital. And I'm not talking about the building, I'm talking about the people. Right. I had a command of 500 soldiers and civilians. And I said, you serve them. But you get to the point where the things that you may try to do to improve things, or you get to the point where you know that the things that you need to do are not going to be able to get done, And I had reached that point on active duty, my last assignment. And here's what really happened. I had a chaplain who I was talking to one time, and I said, man, I don't understand it. Every time I turn around, I'm reading these Psalms. And he told me, he looked at me, he said, Johnny, those are the lament songs. And it was so funny because I hadn't really looked at it from that perspective. And I started looking at him and said, yep. I said, you know what? I'm tired. That's what it is. I'm tired. I need a change of scenery, and I need a fresh awakening, if you will. So I said, yeah, it was time. And I didn't want to put forth the effort. I had 30 years, and to go beyond that, you have to put in a little bit more paperwork, to go up and above beyond that. The problem was I didn't know what I was going to do at the time. So,
and so
but
30 years, what was your highest rank that you attained?
I was a colonel.
Full bird.
I had gone for a couple of brigadier general boards, but a couple of things had happened that I think probably, two things. Number one, I never did find that general that I could kind of hold on to. In the medical side, you gotta have a mentor, to speak up for you. I had a couple of them I probably could have done, but I never did that. And then there were a couple of things that happened. No, they weren't real bad things, but when you start looking at people's records, they could be looked at, from a negative perspective, if you will. So I remember when I was in when I was in Hawaii, and the general officer left, and they were looking at the colonels that were there to be the interim for the next general who was going to come in. And General Peake at that time, was the Surgeon General, and he was the one who was making the determination. And I knew General Peake because I had worked for him when he was at AMED Center School as a commander of the AMED Center School. And I sent him a letter. And I said, hey, sir, there's nothing really bad. I said, but I don't want your choice for this position to be blemished in any way. So I said, I don't know who you're considering, but I'll take my name out of the ring for running. And so, yeah. He respected that. He respected that. Because later on, he didn't come and tell me, but other people told me how much he praised me about other things. And I'm sure that was a part of it. So, yeah. But yeah.
That's good stuff. So we're going to do a pivot.
Okay.
So you did 30 years, and you served in some senior roles and some very highly respectable leadership positions. How did you end up getting into the nonprofit world?
Oh, well, after I retired and I came back here and I was working in IDES. I did some other jobs, but then my last 7 years, I was really working in IDES. About 2018 or so, God was laying it on my heart about doing something with nonprofits. There were just things that I was thinking about. And I'll just tell you one story. I had about 4 or 5 of these that all happened within about 6 or 7 months. But one of them was I had gone down to the IGA. I live in Hepzibah. So I was gone down to the IGA, and I live out in the country in Hepzibah. I don't live in the town of Hepzibah. I live in fact, I can't even vote it. Yeah, I live out in Richmond County, So anyway, I'd gone to the IGA, and then I was leaving. I saw this guy walking, and he had like a pillowcase with stuff in it. And he was just walking. And I said, I just had this feeling I need to pick him up. My wife chewed me out later on. I thought about bringing him home, but I knew that was going to be a no. So yeah. Well, anyway, I said, hey, where you going? And he said, I'm just going right over here. So he was just going. Actually, he was only about 75 yards away from where he was going, but he was just lumbering along. So I picked him up and I drove him over there. He said, I'm going over there. I just got out of the hospital, and I just need a place to stay tonight. I said, okay. And I said, so they know you, over there? And he said, yeah. So we went over there and nobody answered the door. So he came back to the truck. In the meantime, God had laid on my heart. I had some money I always keep in my little side pocket of the truck. So God had laid on my heart to give him all that was there. So I pulled it out and just had it in my hand. I said, now what are we going to do? So he said, well, let's go over here to the service station. He said, I've been over there before. And I said, he said, I will spend some time over there doing some things. And he said, they'll take care of me. I said, you sure? He said, yeah. So I drove him around to the back of the little service station, the little convenience store there. And as he was getting out, I said, let's do two things. So he said, what? I said, here's some money. And he told me he had told me the story about what was going on with him. I said, listen, God laid it on my heart to give you this money before you told me the story. He said, I didn't tell you that story so you could give me some money. I said, don't worry about it. I said, God had laid it on my heart. And I said, let's pray. So, and we did. We prayed real quickly. He went in the store, and I went back. I was trying to go back a couple of times to find out what really happened to him. Never did find out. But it set a little piece in my heart to have emergency housing for people. And there was a big house that was right here on 88, right next to the bank, the Regions Bank there, and they had a sale sign on. I said, man, if I had enough money, I could buy that house and I could probably set it up as a temporary housing place for people and that type of thing. And then wasn't too long after that a friend of mine was talking. He told me about the center that was working to help people. And I said, where is it? He said, in South Augusta. I said, I live in South Augusta. Where about? And when he couldn't tell me. So I went online and I Googled center and I Googled homeless and I Googled, food and that type of thing. And the Dream Center popped up. And I went. Yeah, it popped up. So the next opportunity I got, I drove down to the Dream Center and I sent Kelly an email. I said, how are you going to be in my backyard and I not know about you? She said, I don't know. So then I drove down there and I met with her. Hey, how you doing, Angelica? Good. Huh?
I said, good to see you.
Oh, good seeing you. Yeah.
Great story.
And that was in 2019.
Okay.
And so just before the pandemic hit. And one of the things that happened was when I went down there just to kind of sit with them, it was right after Christmas. And what they told me at that time was, and many people don't know this because it didn't make the news, but you remember the bombing that occurred up in Nashville in 2019 on Christmas Eve? Remember they had that big bombing?
Yes, sir.
There was a businessman in Augusta, Georgia, who also had businesses up in Nashville. And he rented a big truck, a big van truck. He said, load this up with food and clothing. He said, because his business up in Nashville was near where this bombing took place. And he said, I know there are a lot of people who are going to be homeless and they're going to be without food and without clothing. And here we are right after Christmas. And then he said, but before you drive up to Nashville, he said, go down to the Dream Center and see what Mrs. Cardona can load up for you. And they loaded up a whole bunch of food and clothing and everything else. And that truck took it up to Nashville. And nobody heard that in the news, So that was part of that was like, okay, God, you're speaking to me. And as I told Kelly one time, I'm like Carmen. I said, whatever you got, I want some of that. So the rest is kind of history. I started, helping out there because I felt God was leading me there. And then sort of a similar thing happened with a little bit different. They were looking for another member on the board of directors for Christ Community Health. And somebody who I had gone to Bible study with, he suggested my name and they sent me an application. And then they, through their processes and the availability of another person leaving and then another person coming on board, they finally selected me. And this past March, I went on board with them as one of their directors. for the Christ Community Health. And that's right in line with what I've always wanted to do, which is spirituality, the mixing of spirituality and healing, that is so critical. So, yeah.
But people don't think about when healing is not just on the outer or the physical. Yeah. It's spiritual healing too. So,
yeah. Well, Robert Cameron and I have talked about it from time to time. We're gonna try to some point in time maybe do a little series. I'm gonna put together something because there's been a lot of research on prayer and the power of prayer with healing. And when you compare it to in medicine, we do what we call socioeconomic strata for diseases and treatment for diseases. And prayer has been shown to have a significant impact on that thing. And I can show you research that says if you just go to church, whether you believe or not, if you just go to church, you're going to be healthier than the other guy who doesn't go to church.
That's right.
Okay.
Come on. Cause look,
so you don't even have to believe. You just show up at church.
That's that old principle that they used to say: when you throw enough on the wall, something's gonna stick. Look,
there it is.
You sit in that church long enough, man. Some of them blessings gonna fall over on you.
That's it. The prayers go up and the blessings come down.
Come on down. Especially if you go to old southern church somewhere and they start knocking them wooden floors, man.
Well, let me interject this little piece. The guy who did the research with two white doctors, one is a PhD, the other one is a physician, and I heard Larson speak in person one time at a conference I went to. He said, and the research shows that if you go to the African American churches in the inner city, you're more likely to be healthier than you do if you go to other places. Now, he was a Methodist. He said he was a Methodist. He said, I don't know about you all, but I'm joining the black church tomorrow morning.
Hey. Research, come on now.
Yeah, and there's some real good research, very, very good research on that. So, awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. So, tell me, what's been going on with the nonprofits, the Augusta Dream Center? What have you guys been doing lately? What do y'all have going on? What's coming up?
Well, one of the challenges we have with the Dream Center now, and I think with many programs, is that with inflation and people's monies being hit in every way, so we have a reduction in the amount of food stuff that has been donated there. So there's a big campaign to try and restock the shelves, if you will. And I think you're going to find that similar across not only the city of Augusta, but also probably across the state and the nation where this is happening. So that's one of the things. And then I'm working with Jenny Wilson, and we're trying to see if we can't garner some big grant money. There's some big grant money that's out there. The challenge we have is we need to have some metrics in place. And when I say metrics, I'm talking about outcome metrics, not process metrics. We can tell you how many tons of food, how many pieces of clothing, how many visitors. We can tell you that number, but that's just a process measure. The outcome measure is what important thing came out as a result of that food and stuff being there, So anyway, that's one of the things we're trying to do. Chick-fil-A has some scholarships. Some grants for anywhere from $35,000 to $350,000. They can do. So, and one other thing that I'm encouraging Kelly to do, because Kelly had a vision for some time to expand the Dream Center, make it, and she actually has plans on it. So I'm going to get with her and we're going to probably have some pictures, the futuristic elevation pictures of what was her vision, and put it out in the Dream Center so people can see it. I told her, I said, Habakkuk 2:2, right? Habakkuk 2:2 says, write the vision down, for it is for the future, but it will come to pass, So we're going to try and put it out there for there you go. So we're going to try to put it out there for the staff, the clients and the volunteers, for everybody to see, so that they can put it in their minds and have it there. So,
Awesome.
And then we got, the normal things coming up. Thanksgiving, they're going to try to feed 300 people, 300 families and stuff on Thanksgiving. Yeah. And then after that, the Christmas stuff that's going on. So always busy. The Kellys just have a strong heart for taking care of those people that are underprivileged, and that's part of I think what I have. When you grow up and you know that people help you to get to where you are, you want to pay it forward and help other people.
That's right.
The you ever seen the movie Hidden Figures?
No, I did.
You never see it. That's a good movie. You need to see it. So anyway, real quick synopsis. In Hidden Figures is all about the Black women who, during the beginning of NASA's space race, they were the calculators. They were the ladies who had learned how to do calculations, and they were always done. This was not with computers. This was before computers, right? When computers came on, they have a scene in there. Viola Davis is about there, who she goes and talks about stuff. But in their movie, there's a lady, Katherine Johnson, that was her name. She died not too long ago. But she was like the head of this group of ladies. And when she was a young girl, and they were saying she was smart, but she needed to go to a different school. The church said to her, listen, we will fund her to go to the school because this is the right thing to do. That's what the pastor told her. Well, that's at the beginning of that movie. Okay, that's at the beginning. That movie had me there, and here's why. Because when I remember I told you I went to Phillips Exeter Academy, one of the ladies, one of the teachers who was there in where we were growing up, she didn't teach me. She taught some of my other family later on. She was up in high school, but she was a member of the church we attended. And when they found out about all of this that was going on, she said, the boy is going to need clothes and she's going to need things to go to school with. They were instrumental in putting together a Johnie Tillman Day. And back in 1968, that Johnie Tillman Day got $800 for me to put into a little trust fund for me to go to Phillips Exeter Academy. So it was mainly for my transportation up there. I didn't have a suitcase when I was, I had maybe one suit, at that, that I just things you didn't have, man. So that movie got me, and that's why now I want to pay it forward to people. Okay.
Awesome. Rio says, great, powerful movie. Amen. Mom says, yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, if you haven't seen that movie, you need to take a look at it. It's a great testament for Black folks in the early days. When in fact one piece in the movie, and I'm pretty sure it's true, when John Glenn was going up in space, and they were wondering about the calculations, and he called back from the space capsule. He said, "What does Catherine say?" And she went back and did her calculations, and they said, "Catherine says that." He said, "I'm good. Let's go."
Oh, you know what? So I didn't watch it. Jill watched it, right? So I was hearing it. And there was a scene that stood out for me was when I can't remember which actor it was, but they kept asking her why she kept leaving for a certain amount of time, right?
Yeah, and she had to go to the bathroom.
Right, but she
Kevin Costner. Yeah. And he broke down all the signs. Yeah.
I was like,
I
need to watch this movie, but I failed to watch the movie at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely
It's a
gonna
good
put
movie.
that on my list. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mom says, "Praise God." That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So look. So obviously, I believe in the vision and the mission of the Dream Center because I'm still there.
Right.
When I
Right.
was there, I was blessed to have the opportunity to intern, and it was
Mm-hmm.
it really was impactful for me. And so I go to work there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though it's still volunteering, but I truly I feel like that's where the Lord has me at right now.
Yeah.
But you tell us what programs do we have there, and how can people get involved? What can people do if I feel like there's something that I can do? My hands. You said, what was that movie? I don't know what to do with my hands. What can I do with these able-bodied hands that I have, and I have this thing in my heart, and something's calling me. What can I do?
Well, I think first of all, if you've got, even a thought like that, then obviously be in prayer about it, and see where God would lead you to. But there's a lot of things that you can do, and not just at the Dream Center, but at other similar places. I went there. I started going there on a regular basis on the first Saturday because of the medical piece for the most part when I found out about that. But they got enough people doing the medical stuff. I don't even have to do that. So, that's how I got the moniker Uncle Johnie, because, they found this old man who was there, and nobody, even though we have all the doctors and all the nurses and nurses with PhDs and everybody else, and they all went by first names. And when it came to me, they kept saying, Dr. Tillman, Dr. Tillman. I said, you can't call me Johnny? They go, no, we can't call you Johnny. I said, okay, can you call me Uncle Johnny? And it was Renee McCollum who said, yeah, we can do that. I said, so, okay, so, yeah. So that's how they call me Uncle Johnny. But, you come and you see what's going on, and then you figure out, what you can do. And there's, you can come and help people who are doing things, even some of the staff who may be doing stuff.
That's right.
If people got a mind for, I started helping Jenny because I know that Jenny could not do all of the stuff she needed to do by herself in terms of writing grants.
Yeah.
She has to have some help with some of that. So, that's something that, when she gets some grant, and we're planning right now to write, try to do 2 grants a month to get them out, just to get them out and see what happens. So if you're good at grant writing, come on, help out with that. If you're good at building stuff, come on, get with some of the people who are the facility managers, folks, and you can do some things there. If you're good with planning, there. If maybe you just like to pray, maybe God has laid on you and you're a good prayer warrior, then come on out and pray. I tell them that the meetings we have, we're going to try and pray at the end of every one of those, the little meeting. And Jenny, I brought Gina and some of the others in the meeting that we've had to be in prayer. And I really believe that when 2 or more, I said if 2 or more, then let's get 3 or 4 of them in there, right? So,
that's right.
So on the same sheet of me.
Why not 3?
And then if you feel that you can't do that in prayer, definitely. But if you have a few dollars here or there, then donate. Just donate. I told them the other day, when you were there on Tuesday, I said, hey, listen, if we just get, everybody to bring a couple of cartons of 12 cans each of corn and green beans. And Bill said, yeah, that would be great to get stuff like that for Thanksgiving, So if God lays it on your heart to say you want to donate, then go ahead and do that. Donate, If you're local and you go to one of the local churches, stand up in the church and talk to the people there. Actually, I'm going to be trying to get in some letters out to some of the local churches to say, if you've got a food pantry, you might be able to get rid of your food pantry and just, send some money or help support with volunteerism or, You know, send your congregants down to the Dream Center. Let us, they can get something there. So
That's right.
And then along the line, one of the churches that I've been spending a little time with is Journey Sherwood. That's Pastor Keith Walton down off of the truly in South Augusta, if you will, on Louisville Road, down there.
That church, while we were out.
Yeah, it's right at. It's almost at the intersection of Windsor Springs, where Windsor Springs goes all the way down deep, and then in Louisville Road. That church right next to it is not Sherwood. Sherwood is the next church over from there. So New Horizons is the name of that church on the corner, and then it's over from there. But he's doing some wonderful things there as well. So.
So look, how important is what is servant leadership? How important is servant leadership?
Servant leadership is extremely important. Over the years, and one of the questions you had for me to consider was some books that I looked at. There's some books I want to read. I got a whole stack of them. As a friend of mine often say, I'm all booked up, Although my schedule is part of it, I'm booked up because I got all these books I'm supposed to be reading. But over the years, there are probably 3 books that I have used that help to demonstrate servant leadership. One of them is by a guy named Bob Briner and Ray Pritchett. And that book is called The Leadership Lessons of Jesus. And the subtitle is A Timeless Model for Today's Leaders. Okay. The other book that I really like, and I wish I had read it a lot earlier than I did, but I'm glad I read it when I did read it, is Lincoln on Leadership, talking about President Lincoln on leadership. And it's by Donald Phillips. And that one is Executive Strategies for Tough Times. And then the third book that I think depicts a lot of what we want to talk about in terms of leadership in a way, because leadership is all about interacting with people, no matter what. And that is Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And there, what's that?
That's in my queue to get.
It's a great book. That book was written in 1936, I think it is, and it's timely right now.
It's crazy. That's good stuff. I need to get it.
Yeah. So let me just tell you what my thought is about servant leadership, because I had a guy when I was the commander of hospital. I actually had a junior commander who said one time, he said if everything goes well with the plan at hand, they did it. He said if things are only halfway right, we did it. He said, and if things are totally messed up, I did it. Okay. And I said, that's a good thing to be. But again, what I said earlier, that servant leaders should be looking at the ways in which they make their subordinates better. Not make me better. You make their subordinates better. Okay. What's the old expression is, when you see a turtle on the fence post, he didn't get there by himself, And so somebody had to pick him up and put him there. As a leader, we don't do the things we don't do everything, because we can't do everything. Okay. So we have to have people that does those things. And one of the reasons I like the message from Lincoln's book on leadership was that Lincoln was going to pick his Secretary of War. And the person he picked was Edwin Stanton. Stanton hated Lincoln. I think he called him a baboon or something, right? Yeah. The rest of Lincoln's staff said, sir, that man does not like you. Lincoln's response was, but he's the right man for the job. Okay. So sometimes being a servant leader means that in spite of all the other conflicts that's going on, in spite of all of your thoughts about, I don't like this person or whatever, if that's the best person for the job, you choose that person and you let that person, and you work with them. Now, here's fast forward. Lincoln and Stanton became so close because number one, now Stanton was probably bad-mouthing Lincoln because he didn't really know him. But he got to know him. And when Lincoln died, they said the person who cried the most was Stanton. Wow. Because he had learned how to become not only a great, if you said a great official under an officer under Lincoln, but he had also learned how to become a great friend of Lincoln. Okay? I think the other thing that is, and I'm going to take this story from How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie, as people know, was steel magnate, a steel tycoon. Right? And when one of his steel mills was faltering and it wasn't doing well, and he had hired Charles Schwab, not the Charles Schwab of today's time, but Charles M. Schwab had hired him to be the superintendent of all these mills. And people said to Andrew Carnegie, they said, Mr. Carnegie, Mr. Schwab knows nothing about steel. So Carnegie said, I didn't hire him because he knew something about steel. I hired him because he knows people. Okay? So he sent him down to the Bethel mill that they had. And the superintendent at the mill had said, we have threatened these people. We have threatened them that we're going to cut their wages, that we're going to punish them. We have done everything, and they will not produce anything. So supposedly Schwab went in, and I've heard this story many times and read it more than a few times. Schwab went in and said to the people as he went through and as he was leaving, he said, how many runs of steel did you all do today? And they said 6. And he asked for some chalk. He put a big 6 in the middle of the floor and left. The next shift came on and said, what is this? He said, the big man was down here today. He asked us how many runs of steel did we do today? We told him 6. The next day, when the other shift came back, the 6 was erased and a 7 was there. The night shift had done 7 runs. The next day, when the night shift came back, the night shift came back, and they looked at it and they said, oh, and they put a 10 on it, and they did 10. Within a very short period of time, this underproductive steel mill became the most productive steel mill in Carnegie's arsenal of steel mills. Wow. What Schwab said was that competition is a great weapon, basically. And he said not from the standpoint of making money. He said, but from the standpoint of people excelling. If you know that something you're doing for the most part, and you think that you're doing it right, but somebody else is doing it better than you, then you need to look at what they're doing and then try to emulate what they're doing, if you will. So he said, and that becomes, a generation of some sort of competition. So that's the thing. Pick the right man for the job. That's what a servant leader does, even if that person knows something different than you know it. The other thing is, don't care about the results don't care about who gets named for the results, as long as the results are completed and accomplished. When Carnegie was working with George Pullman, the Pullman car fames, the big expensive cars that were on the back of trains, they were fighting with one another. They went to meet at one of the railroad lines. And Carnegie said to Mr. Pullman, he said, listen, he said, we've been fighting against one another. He said, I've got an idea. I got a venture. He said, let's pull together. Let's pull together. our resources. I got the steel, you have the knowledge about making these cars, and let's make a company that does that. And they said, Pullman wasn't too convinced, but he then finally said, okay, so what are we going to name this? Supposedly, Andrew Carnegie, without batting an eye, said, Pullman Cars, what else? Okay. He didn't care that Pullman got the name on the cars for what was done, as long as, number one, both of them benefited from it, you know. Yeah. So sometimes we have to do that. Sometimes we want our name on something. A servant leader doesn't care. I had one example when I told you I worked for General Peak, and he gave me an assignment to do, and I didn't get it done in a certain time frame. And General Peak was a man that you could tell when he was mad. He didn't say anything. His face was turned red, and he had a vein on the left side of his head that would kind of blow up, you know. Yeah. So anyway, I looked at that vein and I went, oh my God, he is mad. Okay. So I said, sir, I apologize for not getting this done. I did not know your timeline. I said, my staff is working on it. I said, and I will tell you that they were working in accordance with my timelines. So the good thing is I saw the redness kind of drain out of his face, and the veins started to go down a little bit. And he looked at me, he said, Johnny, he says, do what you can. So I said, okay. So I went back to the staff. I said, listen, guys, my mistake. General Peak's on a different timeline than I'm on. So tell me what we can do. I'll never forget, it was 2 or 3 weeks before President's Day. And we had a new guy that had come on board, and he was there on a compassionate reassignment. Great Sergeant Burns. I'll never forget him. And he said, hey, sir, I've been working on this thing. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, and so we asked the guy who was put in charge, who was a Navy captain at the time, putting in charge of working it. And they laid out, they said, sir, we can probably complete this thing that we have laid out here in the next couple of weeks. I said, really? He said, yeah. So they did. They pulled it all together. And I said, come on, guys. We're going to go down and we're going to brief General Peak. But you're going to brief General Peak, not Johnny, because you did it. And I want him to know who did it. So we did and briefed it. And he was just ranting and raving. He said, Johnny, that's just what I want. I said, hey, sir, the staff did it. We adjusted things. We adjusted fire to your timeline. They did it. They're the ones that got the credit for it. So anyway, you know, if you want to accomplish something, the servant leader needs to understand that it is the responsibility of that individual to ensure that the people who can do the job will do the job, and then they get credit for the job. That's right. Yeah. They look good. They did well. It fell over to me as the commander, you know. So
that's right.
Anyway.
I wish more people, you know, people are gonna say it, but there's so many leaders who don't think that, you know, when I always, you know, executed and I maneuvered in a way of I'm gonna do everything I can do to kick you through the door of success. But when you get in there, all you gotta do is shine, because I'm getting benefits from seeing you shine. You know, you tell me what your goals are, that's what we're gonna work towards. Now, we got a mission to do too, so we got to get this mission done.
and that leader has to be open-minded to the things that someone else knows that he or she may not know.
Right.
Okay. And accept the fact that it's okay, even if they are a subordinate. They need to take input from them, those things, you know.
Learn from top down, down up.
Yeah. Because a lot of times, you know, those subordinates have been through a lot of things, sometimes with different leaders and sometimes with different individuals who have demonstrated, if you will, the different kinds of capabilities and abilities they have. And they learn from that. And then that leader may not have picked up on all of that. So the leader then has to reach out sometimes and say, hey, what do you think about this? And then, ultimately, that's why if everything goes bad, it's the leader's responsibility, right? Because who's going to make the final decision? It's going to be the leader, right? But he or she will look a lot better if they have taken input from those subordinates, and the subordinates have now they can buy into it.
Right. They have ownership in it now. They're like, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe.
But and that's my little part. Yeah, that's my little part over there. Right. I told them about that.
and don't give them a shout out or give them credit when you're up there. That really just up. That team building, all that stuff, man, they ready for the next project.
Yeah.
What we got next, boss?
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
You are giving out 2 jewels on leaders are us. That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
and we are. I mean, everybody's a leader one way or another.
That's right.
Okay. There's an expression in those leadership classes, that says we are all leading somebody one way or another. We need to focus on the things that we are doing so that we may be leading them in a correct manner. Okay. And the part of that is when you look at things, you got a leader and a manager. Okay. Those are the two, right? Right. So the leader will do the right thing. The manager does things right. You got the difference? Okay. Sometimes they said, oh, you got to do A, B, C, D. The leader looks up and says, no, I don't need to do A, B, C, D, because that's going to hurt Marte, or that's going to hurt somebody else. Right. So I've got to figure out how to do the right thing so that Marte is not hurt, or Johnny's not hurt, or whatever. Right. Okay. And the manager doesn't care. He said, nope, lockstep,
That's right.
A, B, C, D, type of thing.
Check.
Yeah.
Complete.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, right. And most people don't even know why they check the box anymore. They just know I got the box checked. Well, why did you check that box? So anyway.
So tell us, in 30 years of military service, you experienced a lot of things. You witnessed a lot of things, especially in the medical field, and you was in the surgeon cell. Tell us one of your most memorable experiences. Something that stands out when you think back on your career in that field.
Well, there are a lot of things that may have equal importance, but let me just tell you, in my 30 years, and I was coming up when I was teaching medical students at the Uniformed Services University. And I had been called to take an assignment. And I didn't want to take that assignment. Mm-hmm. I wanted to, but I didn't want to. I knew that it was going to mean that I was going to be gone for 6 months, leave the family, and the family was important at the time. And we also had bought a house, and that house was going to be our retirement up in Maryland. I was teaching at the Uniformed Services University Military Medical School. And they told me, they said, if you take this assignment, next year, after you come back from this assignment, you'll probably get a chance to command a hospital. And I went, oh, okay. And I didn't take the assignment, and they were all upset. Okay. And I said, okay, it's fine. So let's fast forward 7 months. So fast forward 7 months, and all of a sudden I get a call from Branch, okay, from the medical corps. And they said, hey, Colonel Tillman, your name has come up, and we want you to take a hospital command at Fort Eustis. So it was funny because on the phone, they said, what do you say? I said, let me think about it. And I got to go home and talk to my wife and do other things. But on the phone, I knew I was going to take it. And the reason why is because as he said this and laid out the opportunity, if you will, a voice inside me said, you've got to do this. I heard that just like I heard myself say it just now. You've got to do this. And I had this feeling that came over me that was peaceful, and it was in the script.
Right.
And I went home, and the first thing I did, dropped my stuff, went into. I told my wife, I said, they called me to go and take a hospital command at Fort Eustis, and I've got to go. Now I said, I don't know what's going to happen between you and the kids. I just know that I've got to go. We've got to pray about it and see what's going to happen. So the next day, a general officer calls me, Johnny, what are you thinking about this command? I said, well, sir, I've talked over with my wife. I said, and I had, but she hadn't made up her mind yet. I had. I said, but I'm going to take it. He said, oh, great. So the next day was when the guy was supposed to call back, Phil, and I knew him. I'd known him. He was a medical service corps officer. He calls me back and he said, Johnny, he said, what did you decide? I said, well, Phil, I decided that I'm going to take it, but I need for you to answer some questions for me. He said, why? I said, 7 months ago, you asked me to take an assignment, and you said if I took that assignment, then I would get a hospital command a year later.
Yeah.
I didn't take that assignment. I said, so what's up? And he said, Johnny, he said, the person who was supposed to take this command couldn't do it. He said, a special board met and they chose your name. I said, wow, okay. Fast forward, I go down to Fort Eustis. I'm down at the hospital there. Two other things comes. Well, actually, one other thing confirmed that for me. My youngest child, Jarius, at the time was only 5 years old. He was going to turn 6 in August. And this was back in March. He said, oh, we'll be closer to grandma. Now, he didn't know that where we lived in Maryland and where my mother lived in Virginia was about the same as the distance from where she lived in Virginia and Fort Eustis. But, but I use that as a confirmation from the mouth of babes, if you will. So I get down to Fort Eustis and I'm walking around and I'm looking at things. And one of the ladies, Marte, the first time I met her, I'll never forget that. I know her name today because of this. She looked at me and she said, Colonel Tillman, she said, we have been praying for someone like you.
Oh, wow.
I said, Mrs. Such and said, you don't even know me. She said, I know we've been praying for you. The last thing, the EEO officer from the post came because I was the new commander. Right. I was African American. So, so they're laying out some guidelines of things I need to do. And we're talking, just normally talking about things. And I'm letting her go. And I'll never forget, my office was here. There was a doorway into my secretary's office. So right at the doorway to my secretary's office, she stops and she looks at me and she said, Colonel Tillman, she said, I think God has you where he wants you. I said, thank you. I said, okay, God, confirmation number 3. All right, I'm good. But that, those are the kinds of things. I haven't had an experience like that with that drama, if you will, to it, and that intensity. There have been other things where I've heard gospel, but that was the thing. And the challenge you have then is you want to know, did you do all that God wanted you to do in the position that you were in? You know what I'm saying? And sometimes you may not know if you have done that, and you may not know right away. But I do know that was an assignment that God had for me. I mean, everything lined up too perfectly against me, if you will, because I did not want to do it. I wasn't going. I was going to retire up in Maryland. Yeah. We built a house. We had a great house. We built to our own specifications, everything, and we had to leave that. So, but that was probably one of the more dramatic things when I took command of the hospital at Fort Eustis. So
would you say that faith is important in leadership?
Oh yeah, I think faith is important in all that we do, and we just need to remember that we are sinners saved by grace. So we're not perfect. Okay, we all have warts and we have, dings and all sorts of things. And actually, that's one of the things that in my couple of the Bible studies I've been going through now, I keep saying to folks, since, as you get older, you want to keep saying this, finish strong, there've been plenty of folks who haven't finished strong. So, David, when he made a mistake, he did the next right thing. Right. And that's kind of how you finish strong. Don't let that one thing, that wrong thing define you. Figure out what the next right thing is, and then that should define you.
I think
that's why he was.
I think somebody needs to hear that. They might need to hear you say that again. Don't let that one thing. Come on.
Yeah, don't let that one bad thing define you. Do the next right thing, and let it start to define you. Okay. Yes. Because we all have things that we can tell people about. So most of the time, we don't want to tell people about the things that we did, and we said, "Lord, if I had to do it all over again, I would not have done it that way. I would not have done that." But it's done. It's history. You can't change that. But you can change where you are and where you're going to be later. Yeah. So yeah. Right. So that's my thing I've been saying. Yeah. Yeah.
Finish this for me.
Okay.
This sentence.
Okay.
The most effective leaders
serve their subordinates.
Serve their subordinates. You are a servant leader. You take care of people.
Yeah. If you take care of your people, the people will take care of you.
That's right. Man.
I had a staff sergeant when I was division surgeon. Okay, I was a major. I went into the division as a major, and by the time I finished up in the division, I was lieutenant colonel. I got promoted while I was there. And I had a staff sergeant who was a great guy. I had a couple of folks that were there, but a staff sergeant, never forget, Staff Sergeant Mark Bodak. Bodak was a great guy, and I would always make sure that I took care of Bodak along with all the other folks that was there. I knew that when it came to things that I would need and however else I needed to present myself, to include that if it was something that I was missing and I needed to make sure that it was right, Bodak would take care of me for that. Okay. In fact, that was kind of the old Army. He found a kit, because one of these little otophthalmoscope kits, and because we would go to the field, right, and we went on a warfighter exercise and stuff, and we would go to the field, and I wouldn't have stuff that I need to do to do a little doctoring stuff.
Right.
So one day Bodak shows up with it. He said, I looked at it and I said, "Wow, Bodak, this is nice, man. Where'd you get this?" He said, "Sir, it's best that you not know."
You don't know.
He said that way that way you have complete deniability.
That's right. The less you know, the better you are, sir.
That's right. Yeah.
That's
so
some good leaders for you right there.
That's right. Yeah. When we were in the warfighter exercise, I never forget, I met a master sergeant who I had known when I was a brigade surgeon. And at that time, he had been a staff sergeant, okay? And he was now master sergeant, almost going to be a sergeant major. And here Bodak was with me. And Bodak was good on computers and stuff. The master sergeant didn't know anything about the computers and stuff that was there. And they had to be in what they call the talk, the computer talk for the night. And Bodak was there. I looked at Bodak. I said, "Bodak, that's Master Sergeant Williams. Master Sergeant Williams, that's Bodak, Sergeant Bodak." I said, "Bodak, you teach Master Sergeant Williams everything you know." He said, "I got it, Doc." And that it became a union, if you will, a camaraderie, a partnership. And I was just the middleman, if you will, because both of them knew me and knew what I was like. They just made the assumption that, okay, if in fact, Master Sergeant Williams always kept calling me he kept calling me Captain Tillman because he knew me when I was a captain. He goes, "Oh, sir," he said. I said, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." But he knew me and knew I was Doc, and he knew that I would take care of him, and then I took care of Bodak. So anyway, the two of them worked out really well, really great there like that. And there was some little NCOPD going on there.
Right, exactly, and it was from the bottom up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're never too high to learn, man. That's beautiful. I like it. So, Doc, what's your leadership philosophy?
I think I probably have intimated most of it in our discussion. I think that and I'll probably kind of end with this piece a little bit, is pay it forward. You know that whatever position you found yourself in, and however great somebody believes you may be, and you may believe in your own mind that you are, one of the things I've had to rein myself in on, and God helped with this. I would say I was humble, about things, but my humbleness would be totally an outward appearance as opposed to an inward, if you will, change of heart to some degree. So when we all come, and as I described for you, I came from very, very humble background, and the things you do, you have a tendency to say, you know what, you did pretty good getting to where you are, with the understanding that it was really God who got me there. Okay. And it was at a prayer breakfast one time when God revealed that to me many, 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 many years ago. And so he gave me my motto verse, as the old folks would say in the country churches. What's your motto verse? What's the thing, your motto verse? What is the thing that governs you,
Yeah.
So mine is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he would direct your path. Okay. So that's giving honor and praise to God with the things that's going on. And I have to do that a lot. And I try to say that's the thing that will help other people do the things they need to do. They may not pick up on mine, because this is for Johnie, right? What God has for me is for me. But they can pick up on the fact that Johnie has a heart for them, and Johnie really cares for them, and Johnie wants to see them advance and want to see them be successful in some way. And what you do with that is you think about what got you to be successful, along with God and God's instruments of other people got you to be successful. And then you make sure that you pay that forward, because I'm never going to go back. And all those people who donated to Johnie Tillman to go to Phillips Exeter Academy, many of them are dead again. So, and even if I try to reimburse things at the church, and I do things for the church for that very reason, even if I'm not there, because I'm doing it because I'm trying to pay it forward. And one of the things I really want to do in that regard, and God may have laid it on my heart, is to try and establish some sort of scholarship or something back home for people there, some sort of, nonprofit for them to pay it forward, And whenever I do something for people, and a lot of times they say, "Oh, I want to do something back for." I said, "No, you can't. Number one, you're going to take away my blessing. Number two, you can't get the same feeling out of paying me back that I got out of paying you or doing something for you. But you can get your own feeling if you do it for somebody else." Right. Okay. And if you do it for somebody else, and maybe do it for two other people, but I think that's the philosophy that I've always used in all of my in all of my leadership roles, is try to find what I can do to help that person move forward the way other people have helped me to move forward. So
that's good. Look, you definitely you hit it. You You got us to a point where we can close it out, but we can't close it
Yeah.
out without your humble boast or a little humble bragging. So I know you talked about the family. You want to shout them out? You want to say anything to the family? What's going on to the family?
I got. Are they somebody on there?
I don't know. It's a bunch of people in the room. So I mean, go and shout them out.
I can't. Only thing I can see is you. So I don't know.
Well, you got to go back and you have to.
I do know my daughter said she was going to get on. So she's my she's my conscience. She's the one who sometimes keeps me straight with things. We get into some terse discussions a little bit, and God, I told I told her, my mother always had an expression. She said, "You're my favorite son." I said, "Mom, I'm your only son." She said, "Well, then you have to be my favorite, right?"
That's right.
Well, I always told I said, "God, just give me one daughter." And I think it was because I had 3 younger sisters, and so I always wonder if I'm doing the right things by my daughter Zipporah if she's on. And my son Jairus, I don't know if Jairus is on or not, but anyway, if he's there, and then Sean if he's on. I don't think any of my sisters came on. I don't think they did. I sent them an email with it on it, but they may not come on. But anyway.
Thank you if you guys are on. Thank you for coming out.
Yeah. If anybody's there, thank you very much. And yeah, I'll go back and look at it later and see if somebody's there, and I'll give them a shout out as well. So
yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for hanging out. We didn't go down too many rabbit holes, but it was amazing as expected. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
I could sit and talk with you and listen to the stories forever. That's it's so awesome because one, just your heart. You have an awesome heart. And then you're military, so that's like one of those things where it's like, I love the stories, and then you're God-fearing, and so they just all come together in a nice little, hobgob of awesomeness.
Well, let me close with this one thing, because you mentioned that, and there was a time, because you had one of the questions, there was a time when I really did struggle with, even though I knew I was going to be in the medical side, could you be in the military? Because even though you're in the medical side, there's a possibility still that you might have to kill someone or whatever,
That's right.
And I remember there's a Bible study by Tommy Nelson. Tommy Nelson did it, and it's called God and the Military. And it was one that was actually done by military ministries. I don't know in all of you all's travels, the people who've been in the military, they ever run into military ministries, but they're really big in Fort Sam Houston and a lot of other places. But in that Bible study, it says, and if you go to the 13th chapter of Romans and read from verse 1 all the way down to verse 8, and in there it says, and this is what Tommy Nelson focuses on, it says that God has provided for the protection of people, and part of that provision are police, basically, and soldiers, if you will. Okay. The other piece of it is, if you look in the scriptures, there is never a bad word about centurions. Okay. All of the centurions had good things to say. Now, some of their soldiers did some, the centurion himself was the leader. That was the company commander, right? Then some of their folks did some bad things when it came to Jesus, when they mocked Jesus and that type of thing. But remember the one at the cross, when Jesus was crucified, he turned and said, surely this was the Son of God. And this man was mighty and holy, if you will. Okay. And remember the centurion who came to Jesus, and Jesus even said, he has great faith, if you will. So the centurions have always been looked at. Jesus didn't badmouth them. He didn't say they didn't need to be there. So those of us who may be struggling in that regard understand that as Christians, we're called to be where we are as God has called us and present what we do in a godly fashion. And if we do that, that's all that he cares about. Whether you're a soldier, whether you're a general, whether you're, PFC, that's what he wants to do. So anyway, all right, that's enough for the night.
That's enough for the night. We gotta have you back. Yes. Dr. Uncle Johnie, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
This is my pleasure.
And we'll definitely have you back. And maybe we'll be in the same room. And definitely have my computer up right.
That's okay. It's good. All good.
Yes, sir. Everybody else that's out here in the chat, online with us, thank y'all so much for coming out, hanging with us on Thursday evening. We really appreciate you. Everybody else participating inside of the group chat. Jewel Junkie says, great show, hearts, much love. And Rio says, stop picking up that shame and guilt. You are preaching. We were going, so I couldn't catch up with all of them. I didn't want to cut you off. And who else said something? You're giving out jewels, yep. And mom says, amen. So yeah, all of you that was out there, man, thank y'all so much. Keep coming back. If you missed part of the show, you can go over to YouTube. If you look down there, you'll see the links to where, not the links, but they'll show you the address. You go over there, type in names, and you can find it. And the show will be there by tomorrow morning. Have a wonderfully blessed night. We have another show tomorrow, and then another show on Saturday. So if you like what you see, keep coming back. Join us. And then, hey, if you want to be on the show, man, hit me up. Hit your boy up. We'll work something out. Love you guys. Thanks again, Unc. I appreciate you. And I'll see you
no problem
later.
All right.